Welcome, Vault Dwellers. My name is Nacho Bidness. Today we're joined by a special guest star, Piper, and we're in our casual clothes, and Piper's even wearing something pretty special. If she'd just slow down for a minute and show it to us, you might be able to just barely make out that she... Oh, come on, Piper. You can probably just barely make out that she's wearing a wedding ring. And that's because the location today at Kingsport Lighthouse has three themes to it. And the first is romantic getaway. Now this place is unusual for me in that I haven't jammed like 30 settlers into a tiny space and had everybody extremely angry at the very high population density. I've got just a very few guards, a guy to farm some food and wrangle some Brahmin for us, and wandering around here somewhere is a mechanic. So, real world part of the story. This is going to be my last video that I do without mods. Mods dropped earlier this week, and hey, there's the mechanic. Mods dropped earlier this week, and I'm kind of like a kid on Christmas morning, or maybe like Piper in a candy store. The first night that they were out, I spent hours just saying, like, I'm gonna download all the mods, which, as it turns out, isn't very realistic. I have never played games with mods because I'm a console gamer, so that's all kind of new to me, and I'm gonna spend some time figuring that out. So I think this place is really pretty at certain times of day, especially in clear weather. I mean, just look at that sky. So we'll take a little run around here and see what it looks like before we do anything to it. My settlements coming up will start to have small amounts of mods in them, but I think they'll save talking about exactly what kind of mods and mod policy I'm going to have for a separate video. So that's what Kingsport Lighthouse looks like before we build anything. So here we are at the Citadel. Now, there are three sub-themes to this place, but the overarching one is one of protection. We've got these huge concrete walls that completely surround the place, as well as turrets that overlook the most common approach up the road there. So let's take a look around here. You notice this hole in the ceiling. That is deliberate. That is something that is from medieval defensive fortifications. It's called a murder hole, and it's a place where guards can fire down on someone who is trying to get into some place where they're not welcome. So you can see the walls kind of continue on the other side there. Let's run up and take a look through. This is a bed for this guard that is normally right here. It's very Spartan living quarters that I've got for these guys. We've also got a phone that is connected to a couple other phones in the settlement for the purposes of alerting people about when someone might be coming up the road or coming in and asking for permission to come inside. So these walls also have some additional guard posts to them. as well as some additional extremely Spartan living quarters, mainly because I was excited about mods. I didn't want to take the time to actually do some junk decoration in there. I do have one of my makeshift outhouses here, which is made from a couple of the a shack wall corner piece and a couple of the pieces that fit into those angled ends. I think this looks better or more fitting, this kind of scrappy thing, as opposed to the actual outhouses that we were given in the Far Harbor DLC. This thing that's essentially a hole over the ocean. So let's run back up here. I was able to use this tree as a makeshift power pylon. I thought it was nice to be able to use this as opposed to just letting it be something that felt like it was in the way. We do have a little sitting area here for guards when they're off duty, as well as a lookout tower that overlooks the roads approaching the place. You may notice that none of the wires here are clipped through anything, and that is because I built this settlement before I learned the wires through anything glitch. Now that is a super useful glitch, and I will put a link in the video description to what I think is the best description of how to pull that glitch off. That said, sometimes I still think it looks kind of cool to take the time to make passages for wires. This is not a settlement with a complex power system. I've just got a single master switch that you see there that turns off all the lights and all the turrets and everything in the settlement simultaneously. We've got one more little place for a guard to live, and this section here around the lighthouse was just murderously hard to get in. I'm really hoping that we will get a kind of place anywhere mod that will turn the collision detection off and let us just squeeze anything we want into anywhere we want. We've got some water purifiers, which are really kind of the only income for the settlement. There's just barely enough food grown here to take care of the guards. We also have the other toilet, which faces the ocean, and I don't know about you, but I think that this would be kind of a nice view if you had to sit down and cop a squat in the wasteland. So I mentioned that this is a place of protection, and I'm just gonna jump over here, and that the first thing that we were trying to protect was Piper, because this is our little romantic getaway. We've got some steak and a tato on the barbecue waiting for us, along with a cold beer and just a nice place to sit and be together and look out over the sea. So the next thing that this place is designed to protect is not something that's necessarily precious to us, but it is something that does require protection, and that is, this is my Mercer safe house location. That's randomly generated with the railroad. It goes somewhere in one of the settlements in-game. I don't really know what happened to the Mercer caretaker. He has just disappeared out of the game. he might have gotten killed in a raid or something. But as it turns out, with the events of Far Harbor, I think that it's especially appropriate that the Mercer Safe House would include a boat, because there is a place for a synth to make his journey to Far Harbor in some kind of relative peace. Based on the events of Far Harbor, there's not going to be any more mind wipes of synths, at least not in my particular game. So we've got a place for the captain to sit and pilot his boat up to Far Harbor and ferry the occasional synth up there. There's a couple other things that I want to show off before we talk about the third and final sub-theme of this place. Just skip past the Brahmin pen because the Brahmin has somehow disappeared. There's the garden and there's the farmer. We've got a weapons workbench, which is a place where I can come and tinker in my spare time, as well as the other crafting stations, an armor workbench with just a little bit of stuff on the shelves there, a chemistry station with some supplies ready to hand, and a power armor station with a cobbled together set of power armor that I am still in the process of trying to get cleaned up and refurbished, mostly as a side project because I've got a better suit of power armor elsewhere. So that's what the place looks like during the day. We're going to save the interior over there for this evening, and I will see you in a minute after the place gets dark. So this is the final section that we're going to talk about here, is what the place looks like after dark. It doesn't have a lot of lights shining out from the walls, no need to draw unnecessary attention. What few visitors there are required to check their weapons before they're allowed inside. Because this is a place where we don't want strangers lugging around guns, this is the last place for people to live. That was strange. This is where the mechanic and our farmer live. And we've also got our power station. I don't know if I'll ever build anything quite like this again. I've still got a few settlements to share with you guys that have this kind of power station, but with the addition of fusion generators, and especially with the addition of mods, there doesn't seem like a strong reason to take up a large amount of space and a whole building like we do with this one. This is an office for our mechanic. It has one of the 3 phones in the settlement. And before we get to the final little bit, we're going to take a little tour around what the place looks like lit up at night. I think this power armor station looks kind of cool, all lit up. Can work just as late at night as I want. Now the lighthouse itself, I've seen a lot of cool videos of people who have painstakingly built around this, and so I deliberately chose to leave it alone. I've done next to nothing to the place, just put a tiny bit of decoration down here on the ground level. We've got a place to hang out, cook some food for the guards, and where they can sit and look out over the ocean under a nice shady tent. Approaching the docks down here, we've got some nice foot lighting to guide you along the path, as well as those gas lanterns. I think those look really cool. And these industrial lights light up the path down here along the beach. You can see the boat over there is lit up so that the captain can see his charts at night. And so we come to the third sub-theme of this place, with the third thing that we want to protect, which is, it is the most valuable treasure in the whole wasteland. And you can probably see through the door there that it's my magazine collection. I value this very highly for a couple of reasons. One, I have a close family member who is a librarian, and cataloging and filing and keeping knowledge is something that is important to them and is also important to me. But I also value these highly because of all the great perks that they provide. So I have collected all 120 magazines that are in the Commonwealth, as well as the, well, that's odd, it's spun around. I had it placed differently earlier. As well as the 5 magazines from Far Harbor. And I don't know if you know this or not, but there are actually some duplicate magazines. There's at least 3. I've found 3 magazines that I actually already have elsewhere. So that is, to me, the most valuable treasure in the wasteland. Guns, armor, we can find those anywhere. But perks are hard to come by. So let's go inside and past our decontamination arch and take a look at the interior of the house. This is an office area where I can program turrets, take calls from guards or the mechanic, read a book, and plan world domination. We have a couch and a TV that we can hope that someday will actually show us something. In fact, I've already seen a mod that will let you put some video on those TVs. I think it's really cool. It's just the special videos from the intro to the game. I'm hoping that they'll add some more. You also have kind of the first fully stocked kitchen that I've done, at least on camera. Where I could, I used the clean version of stuff, but I've had a hard time finding clean versions of a lot of the different food items. So there again, I'm hoping that someday with the mod that we'll have access to some of the other in-game models. For example, Cram, Dandy Boy, Salisbury Steak, those are in the pre-war sanctuary, so those models do exist in-game. Got a pantry over here that is stocked up with soda pop and for Piper, and vegetables for me because I need to lose some weight. As as well as we've got some sugar bombs and bubble gum and gumdrops for Piper. Table set with the lovely clean red plates and a Yao Guai roast. We're going to have another couple over for dinner tonight. Got some games and a blast radius game and a chessboard and some other things in the curio cabinet. I like this because this is one of the few places before we got the barn walls. This is one of the few places where that was tall enough that you could put this cabinet indoors, so I don't get to use it very often because a lot of times the top there will just, it either won't go in or it will clip through the ceiling. Coming up to the very last little bit of the place, we've got a fully functional bathroom that has some soap and some cleaner and a bathrobe, a couple of toothbrushes and some toothpaste. We're going to pretend that's a working toilet and a working bathtub. We also have a queen-size bed. Repairing the roof here was not terribly satisfactory. I kind of ended up with a shell over the house. But it works, I guess. And the very last thing that we have in the place is my collection of all 20 bobbleheads. Another thing that, to me, is precious and deserves protection because, oh man, it took a long time to gather all those up. But the perks, I thought, were worth it, especially the ones that actually added an extra special point. So there you have it. We have Kingsport Lighthouse, also known as Mercer Safe House. If you liked, click the like button. If you want to see more, subscribe. And if you didn't like, please tell me why, so I can try and do better next time. My name is Nacho Bidness, saying, it's a great big wasteland out there. Let's go have fun in it.